Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Inga Cotton. I'm the founder and executive director of San Antonio Charter Moms. And these are Charter Moms Chats, where we go live to share information with families so that they can get their kids the best possible education. And often we're talking about different schools of choice around San Antonio. But today we're talking about a really important issue, which is that kids have a right to play. And our guests today are Amanda McMickle, and she's the Vice President of Education at the Cibolo Center for Conservation, which in my head is still the Cibolo Nature Center up in Boerne. But anyway, so now it's the Cibolo Center for Conservation. But I've known Amanda as an educator at several settings in San Antonio. She's also the co-chair of the conference that's coming up that we're going to talk about today. And we also have Tessa Baden, who is a play advocate in San Antonio. So thank you, Amanda and Tessa, and thank you for the guest post. It's at shchartermoms.com. And we're going to talk about, so Amanda is co-chair of the conference and Tessa is on the committee for the conference. And this is the International Play Association USA conference. It's actually going to be here in San Antonio on October 6th through 9th. But I want to roll it back a little bit and ask kind of about the origins of the International Play Association, the USA chapter, and what's the connection to like the UN's Declaration of Human Rights for Children?
Yeah, so back in the 50s, the UN, proclaimed the rights of the human, and about a decade later, they realized that they had to have something similar for the child, and so they proclaimed the rights of the child. And shortly after that, the International Play Association was formed in Denmark and had about 40 nations that were affiliates of it. And in 1973, we started the US chapter here in Philadelphia. And Article 31 of the Convention of the Rights of the Child states that the child has the right to play. So everything that the International Play Association does, especially here in the U.S., is advocate for the child's right to play. So that might mean conversations, discussions, live events like you're doing right now with us. But advocating for play days. They have resources on their website for anyone who wants to develop a play day. But it's all centered around the child's right to play. And every time I talk about this, people always say, "Wait a minute! Like we have to remind people that kids have a right to play." And I'm like, "Yeah, we do, unfortunately, but also fortunately that we can all come around something that is so important for our kids."
Yeah, well, in the blog post, y'all mentioned that there's so much concern with learning loss and with testing and stuff, and so there's this sense of like every minute is precious. It always has to be like academic, butt in the chair, pencil and worksheet learning time. But play is a really important part of learning, and that's what you all want to advocate about. So but I want to specifically, I think it's just so exciting that the conference is going to be here in San Antonio, because like there's so many great opportunities to play in San Antonio that we talk about all the time in the Facebook group and on the page. Tessa, I was wondering if you could share more details about like when and where the conference will be.
Yeah, so I feel very lucky that it's here in town, because that means that more of our local people can attend. And so here it's going to be held at the University of the Incarnate Word here in San Antonio. And a little bit later, Amanda will get to talk about all the fun places that are going to be involved. But generally, it's October 6th through 9th. And there's going to be some traditional conference time, we've got amazing set of advocates that are going to inspire us to get the word out and play more in kind of a session. And then we're going to have field trip days. There's going to be an unconference and also a play day, which, as my smile, you could see that's what I'm looking forward to the most.
Yeah. So I want to ask about the theme for the conference, which is right to play right now. And so I was wondering, Amanda, can you comment more about the conference theme?
Yeah, so Rusty Keeler, who is a nature playscape designer, he actually designed the areas at Will Smith Zoo School, at San Antonio Zoo, as well as some other places in Texas. He's the one who said, he came to visit San Antonio, and about a month later, he called and said that, like, we've got to have this in San Antonio. Like, there's so many fun places to play. And so when we started talking about the conference, I mean, right up, like I had kind of a feeling about what I thought we really needed to do, and then he did too. And it was like the exact same thing. And basically it's that now more than ever, our children and us, we need play, right? Like we've had this time where we've been hunkering down, we've been working virtually, we've been learning virtually, and we need this play, what play brings to all of us. And so we felt like, because we're kind of entering into a new era, a new stage of our world, everybody is kind of like, so how are we going to do that, right? And everyone's looking, the schools are looking around, like, what are we going to do? You know, city planners are looking around, designers are looking around, researchers are like, what do we need to, where's the gap? What do we need to research? And so everybody's waiting for like, who's going to do the thing, right? And so that's why we thought, like, let's have this conference where we bring all these people together. And it's not so much of a lecture of like, here's the importance of play, do step 1, step 2, step 3, because we're all in that same place. We're all in the very beginning of like, what do we need to do? And so that's where we came up with Right to Play Right Now. And as Tessa was explaining about the kind of the flow of the conference, we definitely want it to be like a professional retreat where there's informative sessions, right, about what's the latest things people are doing, how they're connecting with the community around play, but also having time and space for participants to play and to interact and to build community. And so, you know, we've all been attending virtual conferences now, but it's like, you know, what's missing in those is that sense of community. And so we're going to have very playful events like, you know, at the museum, botanical gardens and stuff like that. So people leave feeling inspired, but also revived. And that's kind of our end goal. So Right to Play Right Now kind of capture that.
Yeah, like I really feel what you're talking about. Like our team worked very hard and we tried to connect as much as we could virtually, and then these moments when we get to do something in person, especially when you get to like be outside and have like unexpected stimuli, like it's so refreshing, and be able to like communicate with people through body language and that kind of like, and just ways of showing caring that you can do in person. Like it's like, you know, it's an awakening. And I really missed it, but we did the best we could with Zoom, and we kind of settled for that and kind of got used to it. But and you know exactly what you're talking about like it feels like a new era is opening. We don't know exactly what it's going to hold. And like, you know, last month we shared a lot of things on the blog about enrichment activities, because it felt like families had kind of pulled in, you know, and like just focus on core academic stuff. But you know, to get kids excited, like you want them to enjoy things that they're passionate about, and like get fired up about their special things, like what makes them unique. And you know, and going outside is a big part of that. So but no, you mentioned that there are these like special things in San Antonio that make, you know, San Antonio such a great place to have this conference, so people can gather and see it in person, and that, you know, it's not just a like, you know, sit down and hear a lecture kind of conference. It's like it's a get out and explore kind of conference. So can you talk about what are some of the special places in San Antonio that people at the conference are going to be able to get to visit?
Yeah, so we're going to have our kind of like kickoff night event at the museum. And so we're going to have, you know, some wine, appetizers, but the place is going to be open to the participants to play and explore. And we will also have some really inspirational speakers, but they are going to have it wired so that even if you don't have to stop playing, so you can still listen to the speakers, but play throughout the museum. So that'll be a lot of fun. And then the Friday night, we will have an event at the botanical gardens, kind of the same thing. We're going to have some food, some drinks, but get to explore their family nature area and just, you know, build that community as well. And we're going to have some play awards that we're going to give out. So that's really exciting. And on Saturday, we're having our field trip day. So they'll have opportunities to go to San Antonio Zoo, visit Will Smith Zoo School, Pre-K for SA, Marvelously Made, the School for Young Children, which is in Helotes, and the Acorn School for Young Child, the Circle School, Hemisphere Park, and Morgan's Wonderland. So just like a full day of visiting places and getting inspired, but also, you know, being able to say like, how did they do this? And how specifically do you do that? And this is how we do it here, and that kind of thing. So the audience will be just such a diverse group of educators, planners, parents, researchers, just a wide variety of people all coming together around this this cause of like, getting our kids to play more.
Yeah, well, you mentioned like some of the really best like early childhood programs here in San Antonio, and really kind of a bucket list of some of the really unique parks and spaces here in San Antonio. And I guess I've lived here for over 20 years, and I'm almost sort of taking it for granted. But then there's times when I look around and it just takes my breath away, like what special places we have here in San Antonio. I describe it to my relatives in California, and California is a beautiful place, but some of my California relatives are like, "Well, you post some really good pictures. Like, there's some nice places in Texas." I'm like, "I know, right?"
Yes.
Californians are a tough crowd, but they're hard to impress. But so, well, that I wanted to ask both of y'all. We'll start with Amanda, but I want to ask. I'm sorry, actually, start with Tessa. I want to ask both of y'all to share stories about, like play-based learning. I mean, that's like what you want folks at the conference to get inspired about and take away ideas from, is like how important play-based learning is for children. So let's start with Tessa. Can you share, like, as a play advocate, like what are some things you've observed, children being impacted by play as learning?
Yeah, and Inga, if you don't mind, I do want to say you said for children, but just to go off of the excitement I felt as Amanda was describing the conference again, I was like, so much joy. And so the conference is really about the adult play, right? And so my first little thing I wanted to share was I went to a professional conference recently, and it started with a conversation about the kinds of play that we all experienced as children, and the time to just think about that and talk about it was vital for the depth of the conversation, right? And so I wanted to share that when I was a kid, me and my brother used to go out back and rake the leaves into bedrooms, okay? Where you get to there's like a doorway and you go in. So I'm sitting at this table and we are in Detroit, Michigan, and there's people at this conference from all over the world. And so the person who sat down next to me shared a story about making rooms just the way I did, but out of snow across the world from me. And I share that story because there was a moment there, this connection that if we wouldn't have ever had those experiences or the time to talk about them, me and that other professional would not be the same people today. Right. And so just to start with that adult play is like really having time for us to remember how fun it is, how much joy we can feel through these experiences and making connections like I got to do with that young lady, right? She was like 15 years younger than me. And so she's inspired me in many ways. But yes, I wanted to go make rooms out of snow, even though to me that sounds crazy because I'm inside when it snows. But anyway, so kids, that word connection is what I'm just going to take right into the importance of play for young children, is that especially after what we've gone through in the world, you guys have mentioned that a couple of times, right? That things are different and moving forward, we can just make it better, right? Especially if we are intentional. And the 2 years that we've been through this kind of uncomfortable, it's been harder for our children to make connections, right? And so connection, and Amanda mentioned the word community. These kids need an opportunity to connect with each other, explore different kinds of play, either side by side, collaboratively, for mental health. It's a basic need. I mean, it's food, water, shelter, play, especially if we're looking at that mental health capacity, right? Children being empathetic to each other, to understand perspective. And they're not going to get that sitting at a desk with a worksheet, right? And they need to have those opportunities. So that's really kind of the adults, and then kind of connecting to the child. That's what brings me so much joy about this idea that we're gonna play as adults, so we remember how important it is, so that we can inspire our children.
Yeah, and the two ideas or thoughts that came to mind for me was, I was talking to some teachers last week, and we were talking about unstructured play versus structured. So just letting the kids go with their own ideas of play, and then using loose parts. What loose parts are odds and ends, things that don't have a specific role, like a truck or a baby doll. But think of more loose parts are like a stick, or what we call them tree cookies, or like a trunk, or and so they were just talking. I was listening to them talk, and they said, well, if we use the tree cookies, like it could be the kitchen, right? But then if they get tired of playing in the kitchen, then they could roll it on its side, and it can be the wheel for their car. And so I heard one teacher say, it's like, yeah, they could use these materials in like very new creative ways. And I like stopped her. I'm like, can you say that again? She's like, yeah, they could use these same materials like in new and creative ways. And then it was like the light bulb went on for all of us. And someone was like, that's innovation. Like what, like that's what, our schools and our should be doing with our kids, right? That's what the workforce is wanting from our schools, is innovative thinkers. So that sparked me, because it became something of like, oh, that's not just like, oh, it'd be great if our kids could play, but like our future needs play in their kids' lives, because it needs innovative thinkers, right? But on the other side, I was reminded of something I think about a lot. Last year, I was working with a school that was in a very underserved community. And there was one morning that I was getting some boxes ready to take out to the kindergarten playground. But I overheard some scuffling in the cafeteria from the 5th and 6th grade boys. I could just tell by what I was hearing that, something was going on. There was some arguing. I could feel maybe a fight coming on, right? So I thought, well, let me just go in there and get them and like have them help me do some stuff set up in the morning, right? And so I went in there, and I was kind of in the back of my mind thinking, I really hope that they'll help me put these boxes out and maybe play a little bit, but I might have to like really push them and like model, or, I was thinking through like as I'm walking over there. So I get these boys and they're like, oh man, what's going on? Come on, miss, this kind of thing. And I stopped them halfway down the hallway and I said, so I have some boxes. Can I get you all to move them to the playground for the kindergartens? And I mean, I didn't have to say any more than that. They said, oh, could we like maybe make a castle for them to play with and like build something? I was like, oh my gosh, they get it. Like, and it was just, I'm telling you guys, it was like the armor fell off of them. That there was no, oh man, come on, miss. Like, it was just, the armor fell off that they came into school with, from all that they brought with them that day, right, that morning. And they were kids playing with boxes. And it was just, I could see just this beautiful display of childhood right in front of me that I thought, like I said, because I was like, I'm going to have to like, initiate this play or whatever. And they just ran with it. And so it just was so heartwarming to see them be able to, let go of that armor and just be kids together. It was great.
Wow. I'm going to cry. I have a 15-year-old. And so like and a 12-year-old, but especially the 15-year-old, it's like, there's the moments where he seems like an adult and there's the moments where he kind of still seems like a kid. And, but to go back to Tessa's point, as like adults, like we should never lose that curiosity, and that being like, we all need to sometimes put our armor down and just be willing to play, and just like let that sweetness and that need to connect and that desire to form community. And like Amanda said, like these are essentials. These aren't like extras. This is essential. Like we need innovative thinkers to be able to solve the problems in the world, and so kids need time in their day to use the parts in whatever way they come up with, not just how it's modeled for them, or what the toy is obviously designed to do. Those are really wonderful stories. I hope that gives people some dimension about like why a play conference is so important. So let's see, Amanda, let me ask you, can you talk more specifically about the conference, like how folks can register, and I want people to know, like it's not, you don't have to be like some kind of certified expert. Like you can be like a interested community member or a parent and want to attend the conference, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And they can find all the registration information at the website, ipausa.org. But you're absolutely right. And I think what is important to note that you kind of mentioned is it's open to anybody, because what I hear a lot from parents is, yeah, I know like my kid should be playing more, but I don't know how to approach this school, or I don't really know enough about like I don't have the tools to go in and say, look, like how can I advocate for play for my kids here? Or let's start a play day. Like, I just don't know how. So, and I always think like, the more confidence you have on a topic, the more you feel like you can go in. And so that's exactly what this conference is. It's giving you the tools, but also the community of like, how does this work? What does it look like? Let's tear this apart and put it back together. But just so people can have the confidence to really advocate for play in their community.
Yeah, it's something that comes up. This is my chance to plug the discussion group on Facebook, but the SHR Moms discussion group, and a topic that comes up a lot is parents, like, they want schools that will help their kids succeed academically, but they want their kids to be happy and they want them to be creative thinkers, and so they want playtime in the classroom. But there's so much, like, schools feel like there's so much pressure from the state to have a certain number of minutes of educational time, structure the school day a certain way, make sure kids are ready for the standardized tests. And so, like, parents need to be that force, speaking up and explaining, like, why play is important, and influence their school leaders, their school boards, to really speak up for it. Actually, but I want to hear from both of you. And again, I encourage everybody to click through. There's a link in the description of the video. Read the blog post. Go to IPA USA. Register for the conference. But what are some tips for parents and caregivers who want to be play advocates?
Yeah, I mean, I think, like I said, with the confidence, like, pick up, there's so many books on play. There's so many things you can find on the internet on play days. There's National Play Day. There's Play Outside Day. There's, all these things that you can get around that if you need like a more structured, formalized thing to hold on, like a tangible thing to hold on to. But also have a conversation with your kids about play. Like, what do they enjoy doing, and how can, oh, you enjoy doing that? How can we do more of that? And I think too, it's what's hard for us as parents. I have 3, and I totally get it. Is just unleashing a little bit of the control and just say, like, a lot of times we're like, okay, I need to come up with some games, and like, take them out to a park or a play area and let them, like, even tell them, like, you're the play leader today. What are we going to do? Like, follow their lead a little bit, because I think the 2 things that I think our kids need to know now more than ever is that we trust them and we believe in them. And so when you unleash a little bit of control, not only does that tell them that message, it also, like, will give you a glimpse of your kid that may be new to you. So you might be like, I never knew you like to build forts. Like, where was this in you all this time? So you might learn something about your kid. So I think, just 2 things, like doing some research so that you, like, when you go to the school or the meeting, or you want to develop maybe a play group or something like that, you feel like you have a little strength behind it. But also on the flip side of that, just be open-minded and have conversations with your kid. Like, I recognize that you want to play more. How can we work together to do that? Tessa, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I was just thinking, I love listening to Amanda. I can see why she's on here a lot. A lot of things that I'm agreeing with Amanda, right? So one of the things that I advocate, and I have a personal mission statement that I feel very strongly about, is that I advocate peace for every child and those who guide them in all spaces and experience always. And what this means, and the reason I'm bringing it up, is that when we say to a family or an educator, we need to play more, sometimes that can feel extremely overwhelming, like Amanda mentioned. Like, I don't really know what to do with that, right? And so I like to call it shared control, which is, some families are not cool with saying, here's a bunch of sticks, let's see what we do with them, right? And we don't want a parent to not want to ever try that again. So one of my strategies that I'm going to share with you is to tune in to what they're interested in and make decisions in your head as a family member or a caregiver or an educator, and say, within reason, what am I going to be peaceful with? Because if I'm at peace, I can really, what I like to call, tune in, right? When you tune into a child, when you really get to, your heart is calm, your heart rate is not through the roof, you can really hear what your children are doing and saying. And what that allows for is finding moments to extend their thinking, their analytical. You guys both mentioned innovative thinking. And so I also think of the Forbes report that came out that talked about how, technical skills are a thing of the past, and we're really looking for creative and analytical thinkers. And so how, as a child guide, which is anyone who has ever experienced time near a child, right? Because whether we like it or not, we're modeling it all the time. We need to make sure they feel at peace with trying out play. Unstructured play, especially. Structured play, I think, makes a lot more sense to a lot of people, right? This is what we do here. There are a set of guidelines, right? I can help my children do that. But that unstructured play an adult needs to find peace. And my husband, which, if he watches this, I don't know if I should have talked about him or not, but someone who doesn't have any experience with kids, then finding a life with someone who feels such an advocate, we have to often talk about where our peace is going to be when we start to expose our children to some unstructured things. And the only way that we can stay at peace as a family is if we kind of think about it. We're intentional. We, again, our heart rate needs to be calm so that we can tune in and really allow for some of that play. So yeah, I was thinking of what are some strategies I think of to support who wants to do play, right? That's what this conference is all about. So come to the conference and then you'll have great ideas. But also just as a little snippet is that observe and listen and tuning in and remembering that play is fun and should make us feel good. Everyone, the family members, the educators, and the children, right? It doesn't have to be the children's play and fun while you feel really stressed out, right? It can be peaceful together. And I really want to encourage any guide of any child anywhere to start thinking about what brings you peace to help provide those opportunities so they're not worried about what might happen, right?
I think that
go
ahead.
Amanda, you mentioned something that I was actually going to mention, which is it's just fun to talk with both of you, but materials that you need, right? So anybody who is trying to think about how to support play and play-based learning is thinking about the materials that children have access to. And I think I saw it on social media somewhere a while back. Like the best toys a child can have are a box, string, cardboard tubes, a stick, and dirt. And then I added water because I'm not scared of water play. I kind of like it. But yeah, so you don't need to buy a lot of things. You're right. The more the toy does, the less the child thinks. Right. So you really want things that don't do a lot of the thinking for the kiddos. So I think I've talked enough.
No, those are really good points. So just to sort of recap, like materials, materials that need to be versatile and that they can also, and don't be precious about them. Like let the materials get destroyed, right? So if they put markers on it or whatever, like just roll with it like that. And that's about finding that peace. And I think the peace is really important for parents need to kind of check how they're feeling and then make sure that they're letting their kids play in a way that builds independence. I like when I talk to folks in like the higher ed space, or people who employ, like young adults, they're concerned about kids kind of waiting to be told what to do, waiting to be shown the instructions. And if they've been in a very structured environment in a classroom or only had structured play, then they're waiting to be told. But if their life is full of really uncertain situations where there is no right answer, there is no clear path, and the unstructured play in childhood is the rehearsal for making those kind of decisions. So I guess as an adult, if we can step back and try to be peaceful with letting our kids do whatever with the materials, then it's not a waste of time. It's actually preparing them to be independent and adaptable in a way that other types of play won't, or structured academic time won't prepare them for.
It's so true.
I like to say it will prepare them to forge the new path that all the jobs are expecting us to be ready for, right? If we want to, especially if, our community wants to be, in front of all the innovation in the world, right? We need to provide those opportunities now, right now.
Yeah. That's right. Right to play right now.
Yeah.
Well, good. Okay. Well, I'll put the website up on the screen again, ipausa.org. Do either of y'all want to offer any closing thoughts about maybe Tessa and then Amanda, kind of, encouraging folks to get registered and, that this conference is open to, people, parents may think, well, it's like, no. Like, as Tessa said, we're all guides. If we're interacting with children, we're all guides as in their play.
Yeah. So, I think I'm a mother of a second grader who goes to a school who I would love them to do as much play as possible. And I feel really blessed that at that school, my voice is important. So because my voice is already important and that's the culture there, then I get to use my voice, and they are doing, not just because of me, but because of all of the adults, right? You're a big passionate about that as families being a part of that educational journey. If you as a parent have the right words and the right ammo, right, to really prove what's important, then schools will listen, right? So parents, you should come, and educators, even if you've played and you're a play advocate already, we need you. If you're not a fan of play and it scares you, you should come, right? Because it's a conversation that's going to bring joy back to learning, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, if you do feel like, I value this is important. I hear you're speaking to my soul, all of those things, but you're like, that's not really my thing, or whatever the case, or I'm busy that weekend, we're out of town or whatever. I would encourage you to sponsor a teacher, right? Like call up either your kid's school or preschool down the street and say, hey, I know play is important. I know you're doing all the hard work and all the things. I would love to sponsor a few of your teachers to engage in this professional retreat where they can get inspired by what's going on around the country. And we have speakers from 3 countries and 22 states, but also just to have that community too. So if you can't go, maybe you can consider sponsoring some people to go.
Yeah, well, that's a great idea. Wow. Well, this has been a great conversation. I've learned a bunch of new ideas. Makes me want to go out and play. I think I've got some water and dirt outside calling my name. So, and yeah, thank you for the guest blog post. Thank you for organizing the conference, and I'm really honored to be able to help spread the word and make parents aware that this is an opportunity that they can participate in, and be advocates for play, right? The right to play right now.
Right now.
Thank you, Inga.
Thank you so much.
All right, take care.